Well, welcome back. So, FYI, I have the AC on, so if it's a little bit loud, I apologize, but it's very hot today, and I am not a fan of the heat. All right, so right now, we're just going to do a really quick video. This one is just kind of to give some updates regarding just content that has been released and currently been working on, and then also some topics that we're going to be exploring over the next few videos. So, if you've been following my Facebook page and even the YouTube channel, you'll notice that I've been posting lately that I've been releasing some new repositories. So I did want to take just one video to kind of go over all of that and then kind of just give you a high level overview as to what we're going to be planning to do with that material. So if you actually go on my GitHub profile and you look at my repositories, you will see a ton. Well, it's becoming more. It never used to be that much. I actually have a lot more, but a bunch of them are private. And so some of these are more far along than other ones. And so the first one I'm going to talk about, this one, don't even use it yet. Just don't even touch it. This one is just giving you an idea of what is coming. So this one is going to be using the Amazon Associates API, or I think they call it like the marketing API or whatever they call it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but this is really just to show individuals who might have an Amazon affiliate account how to programmatically get things like links that will then redirect and then allow you to post them on different content. So I like this. This is actually one of the ways that I support my channel is I'll put links sometimes on videos and then also on certain repositories where if you go and click them and then you go shopping there, then I get a portion of those sales. So I love it because it's a great way of supporting different content creators by just doing things that you're already doing. So ideally with this one, I'll be showing you how to interact with that API and then leveraging it in different things like maybe your videos or your Facebook post or whatever they might be. Additionally, I did want to share this one has some there. I'm still adding to it over time. So obviously, I have YouTube videos. So a lot of what I'll do is I automate different aspects of my YouTube channel. In fact, I actually have a series on that, and I need to get back to that one. But really, the whole idea behind it is I have an application on Google Council that allows me to programmatically manage content on my YouTube channel. So this is really advantageous whenever I need to grab video content, if I need to better understand tagging, if I need to do things like upload thumbnails or update descriptions. It's a really great, easy way to help manage that, especially if you have a ton of videos. So I think now I'm up to like 300 something videos. So you can imagine if I wanted to make a change, I would have to make it across 300 videos. So that's kind of problematic and that can be challenging. Now, initially why I kind of had to pause the series a little bit was I actually was going through the authentication process with Google. And so I will actually give Google credit on this one. It was a little bit easier than the Facebook one. The Facebook one, I'm still stuck on it. I can still do it, but I don't like the way I have to do it. And so YouTube's actually been very helpful in that regard. But ideally, we'll be picking up that series again, and I'll start going into more detail about some of the YouTube aspects that I work with. Alrighty, so this is a new one. This one actually I posted about. So this is for individuals who are interested in collecting and aggregating different financial news sources. So I call it the Finance News Aggregator. I know, super creative. And really the idea behind it is you can then go and in a consistent fashion get different RSS feeds from these different news providers. Now, for the most part, this one's actually good to go. So you could use this right now. I still have to upload it to PyPy, but other than that, you can clone it right now and you can actually use it because for the most part, all the clients are there. Now, this isn't a final list of all the news clients that I'm planning to integrate into this particular repository, but there's enough now where if you want to start using it, you can do it. And there's also tons of examples. So I'll have some in the README, but if you actually go into the samples one, you will see the different news clients that I already have set up. So for example, there's one for NASDAQ, There's one for Wall Street Journal, and so on and so on. And then also I have examples of the different feeds and what you'll get back. So you can imagine some of these will return a ton of content. Ideally, I would like to use the content we get from this particular news aggregator in a possible machine learning series where we'll do things like sentiment analysis and try to see if we can find different correlations between certain stock movements and then looking at their news content. So really interesting topic. This was kind of just the first part of, you got to get the data somehow. So this is a nice, easy way to get some data. I'm also planning to use this in another series, but I will wait for that when we get to that topic. All right, so the next one, and this one I'm going to try to do over the weekend just because I think it's a relatively quick one. So this one is just a topic for those of you who are interested in portfolio optimization. So this is a repository that, again, if you wanted to, you can use it right away. But the idea here is it's going to show you how to use Python to optimize a portfolio of different stocks. So really interesting topic. There's obviously a lot of mathematics behind it depending on how deep you want to go into it. But I tried to keep it relatively simple. And then I also just randomly, and I don't know why I did this, I'm showing you how to get price history from the NASDAQ website. So again, you can do it, but we've obviously seen that there's many different sources we can get historical price data, but I know not everyone has accounts with those particular brokers. So I'm just showing you a different way of getting financial price data from a different source that should be free for everybody. It is a little bit tricky because they do things where they kind of track your cookies and stuff like that. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I would say 90% of the time it works. I think really the only thing we'll have to talk about is this kind of like user agent thing. But ideally here, once you have that price data, then you can use it inside of your portfolio optimization file where you run through it and then you start going through the process. And again, because this is one of those, I guess we'll call it machine learning. So it's not really machine learning, but one of those more mathematical topics. I do go into much more detail and I try to explain how we go about doing certain things and really just kind of what to think about and stuff like that. So really interesting. I hope you guys like this one when we get to it. Trying to get more on those finance, machine learning topics or mathematic topics. The next one, this one. So this one I actually released earlier this week. So for those of you who are interested in government data sources, you are going to you're going to like the next few repos. So this particular one is related to the United States Federal Register. Now, I had never heard about this place until probably like a year ago when I was just exploring SEC documents and one of them redirected me to this website. And so this is actually a government entity where they store just a ton of different documents. I mean, that's really the only way to explain it is just a ton of different documents. And when you go through it, you can actually see just different departments and you can go and just all sorts of things. The really advantageous part about this, though, is these documents tend to be structured. And so that's always been a challenge anytime we've worked with documents is they're not really structured. But these ones seem to be much more structured than other government resources I've worked with in the past. Now, that doesn't mean it's entirely perfect, but I would say it has kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit, and I started exploring it some more, and I learned that basically there's a whole API that we can use to aggregate a bunch of different documents. So I personally love it because what it allows me to do is get different documents related to different fields, whether it's related to different departments. So it's a nice, easy way to go and get a lot of government literature on different things. So again, it might not solve every problem, but I personally like it only because, especially when you start going into different topics in machine learning and neural networks, a lot of times you're working with a ton of text, and being able to efficiently get that text and then train a model on it can be very advantageous. And so ideally, it's kind of nice to have this whole government resource of just a ton of documents that we could potentially use to train different models. So this is another one where it is ready to go. So you could use it today if you wanted to. And I did my best to go through the different topics and the different responses and all that kind of fun little stuff. Again, there's samples here in case you need it. And then there's also testing as well too. So for those of you who want to run some tests, lots and lots of tests. Woo! But yeah, so this is an interesting one. I'm really kind of excited about this one only because we haven't really hit on like sentiment analysis. We haven't really worked on text analysis. It's not a clear-cut science, but it's an interesting one, and it's very advantageous if you can figure out how to do it correctly. So I'm really excited to use this particular repo on those series. Alrighty, so I do have another government resource, haha. So this one is the kind of the same idea, but now we're just focusing on the United States Congress. And so I wouldn't say Congress specifically because I think this is actually a subset of it, but I'm just calling it the Congress one because it just makes my life simpler. Ideally, there's a couple more data sources I'm probably going to integrate into this one, but the purpose of it is really just, again, to show you how to access some of these government data sources, collect all of it, and then do some fun things with it. So I'm really excited to also explore this one. I swear to God, being an election year and all that kind of fun stuff, it's really, really interesting to see the sheer amount of information related to different candidates, related to just different bills or laws that is out there. And I don't know, it's overwhelming, to be honest, actually a little bit, but it's really interesting to see it. And it's really interesting to get the opportunity to kind of explore it and actually get a deeper understanding about exactly the laws that are out there and how they're being discussed and maybe what might be left out of the picture. But there's a lot here. Again, there's tons of examples. This one is a little bit more, I would say, structured into high-level categories. And then once you go into those high-level categories, you'll see them for different things. So this one more returns the actual, what is it, like the folders or the files per se. So each one of these is kind of like redirecting you to the actual file. And then once you get it, then we'll show you kind of how to parse it. So this one's not entirely done, but it's getting closer to where if you want to start using it, you can, at least for data collection purposes, not necessarily parsing it, but at least for collecting it. This is now kind of good to go. Alrighty. And then the next one, this is a really interesting one because I've been hitting my head over it for probably the last 2 days. We are going to start delving into the world of Microsoft Azure. The only reason I am doing this is I constantly get asked about, hey, I have all this data. How can I put it somewhere? I don't have a database in my local system or, XYZ, right? So funny enough, right? I actually was in the same boat and I was like, wow, I've got all this data. I don't really know what to do with it. And I know what the end goal is, but I don't really have the tools necessarily on my system. So that's when I started exploring Microsoft Azure, and yeah, my hair started falling out because of it. That is such a huge framework. It's just insane to begin with. Just the amount of services and products that they offer is absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know really where to begin. It's just, there's just so many products and services out there. So we are going to start slow and we're going to focus on just the SQL database. So we will walk through creating an account on Microsoft Azure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show how to use Python to manage the subscription that you have and do different things like create different resources like SQL databases or virtual machines or whatever it is, and then being able to take information, say, from our data collection repos like the financial news aggregator or some of these federal data sources, and showing you how we can put it possibly into a database. And then ideally from there, we're going to be talking a little bit about data pipelines. So that one's also going to be interesting too, is just exploring data pipelines and seeing how Microsoft Azure really kind of makes that process easier. And then maybe at some point too, we'll show you how to maybe do like an API or something like that. So this is a really interesting topic. I'm actually really excited to do this one only because I love using Microsoft Azure now. The only problem is I literally was about to pull my hair out last night because I was spending so much time on just authenticating. So me being me, because now I've suffered through it, I started documenting it for everybody. So that way you don't have to pull your hair out like I did, because it's not fun. But just different examples. So this one's really simple right now. This one, nothing fancy, but ideally we're going to start going from here and then start exploring some interesting topics about that. Alrighty, so that's that one. There's a few Excel videos I'll just kind of briefly talk about, and then I will cut off this particular video. So, where did I put it? I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. So the first one I want to talk about. So, I don't know why I did this, but I was like, oh, why not? Let's see what happens, right? Because I like exploring different things. I'm going to be showing you how to use VBA to take your macros and push them to a GitHub repository. So I'm forcing myself to be restrictive and saying I'm only going to do it with VBA. So I'm not going to use any outside libraries or any fancy tricks that I've done in previous videos. Again, this is just more for demonstration purposes. There's definitely better ways to do this, but I think it's an interesting topic. And somebody months ago reached out about the idea of like, hey, how could I like programmatically do this or something like that? And I never really thought about it, and it kind of just sat on the back burner. And then last night I was like, oh, I wonder what you would do and how you do it. So I figured it out and I got it to work. That's why if you were looking at the Sigma coding YouTube repo, you probably saw like 4 or 5 different pushes. That was me testing this stuff out. But it's really neat, and I think it's super useful. I actually have an entire private repository on my own system where I actually use the GitHub API to manage all my GitHub repos. So if I want to do things like do a bulk modification of all my READMEs, I can just do it all at once. Or if I need to pull different files or repos, just lots of different random things when it comes to managing the content. I now do it kind of programmatically because, again, one-man show, and I don't have all the time on the planet. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. So this would be kind of good. I think this is really helpful for people maybe who work in an enterprise or an organization where you could potentially just share some VBA code with them, and then all of a sudden you can just save all their macros to basically a single location. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm really excited to kind of share this one only because I think it's super useful. I personally want to do it with VBA, but I'll show you how to do it with VBA anyway. Alrighty. And then I think that's that one. Yeah, we'll talk about the M-reference one in a second. I have some on async IO. That one I'm just doing at my own little thing. Same with multiprocessing. I have some content on that. I've just been like for like the last month and a half, I've just been focusing more on building content than necessarily recording it. So I do have some like specific libraries that we'll get into at some point, and then we'll also kind of revisit, some old repositories. I know the, trading robot one's a big one too. But yeah, so I mean that's coming. And then additionally, we are going to be doing the M reference language. So this one is actually my next video that I'm going to plan to do right after I stop recording this one. This I will be showing you how to use Power Query to do custom functions, work with JSON data, like just really like, so basically like this all started from one of the repos I was building where I was trying to like automate the process of like building file paths and stuff like that. And basically what happened is it went down this whole like rabbit hole where I just started like going, I wonder if you could do that, or how would you do that, or how would you merge this? And before I knew it, I was like doing all these custom functions, and I was learning about like all these new like little tricks of like how I could get this and get there. And basically what it turned into, as I said, I don't know if it's necessarily applicable to anybody, but I think ideally what you could take away from this particular series is just different tricks, different ways to work with scenarios that you might not necessarily know how to work with off the top of your head when it comes to Power Query. This one we're going to be writing all the the code basically ourselves. We're going to be limiting our interaction with the user interface, but I don't know. To me, I think it's just interesting where there's so many tools here, and it's like it can actually make your life a lot easier sometimes, especially when it comes to like VBA stuff too. Like just knowing how to properly manipulate data in Power Query can make your life 10 times easier, and it can really, really just kind of make things neat. So I'm going to just show you different ways of like doing like bulk requests, bulk, JSON conversion and stuff like that. So pretty interesting stuff, but that's for basically the next video. But other than that, that's basically it for this one. So this was just more of a, an update, right? So this was just more of an update showing you kind of the different repos. This is the GitHub management one that I talk about. So this is me. This is my personal one. So this is what I use. I have a few private ones. Like this one, the channel management one too. I use this one too. This is the one I use for all my data and stuff like that. So there's a lot here. But yeah, so I mean, just different repos are now available. So I encourage you all to use them. I'm still maintaining the old ones. So don't worry, those things they get adjusted as I get kind of time to dedicate onto it. But I think now it's like there's 8 repos or 10 repos. I don't even know, to be honest. I've lost count. But yeah, so if you have any questions about the repos, by all means, leave a comment. Otherwise, we will see you in the next video.